Okay, I do have a microphone here, although I think you can all hear me, but I'll try and speak this way. Anyway, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Ellie Joseph, and I was born and raised on the Grand River Six Nations Reserve back in 1953. You don't need to do the math. I'm 70. And I celebrate the fact that I've lived this long. And I'll celebrate tomorrow if I live another day. But I was born and raised on the Grand River, which, the location where we live really molds who we become. And I think that's very, very unique to people who live on an Indian reserve, because it's a very unique community in that it's a privilege and a curse to live there. And I think I'm going to say that again. It's a privilege because we are such a close bonded community, but it's also a curse because we sort of think, okay, here we are locked in. And sometimes I sway from being in that positive and negative piece of my community. Sometimes I sway, and I think that's natural for anyone, anywhere. I'm Mohawk. My mother was Mohawk, so I am Mohawk, and I'm of the Turtle Clan. What got me interested in canoeing? I'll tell you this funny little story. Very fortunate to live on the banks of the Grand River. Come on in. Welcome, welcome. We're just getting started. Feel free to have your snacks, your lunch, whatever. So what got me interested in the canoeing on the Grand River? I was very fortunate to grow up with the Grand River in my backyard. And that to me was really a blessing. And I can remember being maybe 4 or 5 years old, and my mother, being the careful mother that she was, would always say, don't go down there unsupervised. Don't go by yourself. The river is dangerous. And to a 5-year-old who can't swim, yes, I had to pay heed to her. And, my siblings had to listen to the same kinds of safeguards that a mother will put into place. There's also a curious side of me, and I'll tell you a little bit about that now. So one particular year, I think I was probably 5 years old, because I hadn't attended school yet. So I was probably 5, and we had spring flood. And with spring flood came a lot of refuse down the river, logs, branches, trees, rafts, docks that weren't secured, all kinds of strange jetsam and flotsam would come down the river, and I'd be sitting there mesmerized watching it every spring breakup, the ice flows coming down. And this one particular year, there was a raft, and it wasn't much bigger than maybe this table that sits before us, but it was lodged right up against my parents' property. And I looked at it sitting there, and it was like it was beckoning to me. And so what I did was I stood on that raft, and it got pushed out into the river and into the current. And I thought, whoa, this is an experience. This thing floats, and it can keep my weight up. And that was my first adventure on the Grand River. I grabbed a pole, like an old stick, and I was able to propel myself upstream. And that to me was just magic, because there was a whole new opportunity as a 5-year-old to explore. I hid that from my mother for years. And by the time I was about 15, my summer jobs, I was getting paid for different summer jobs that I was doing, and I bought my first canoe. And from then on, there was no holding me back from paddling and enjoying the river. And so I've always had canoeing as an interest. It kind of left by the wayside as I got into a career and had a child of my own. And, I gravitated back toward that in 2010. And I built my own home on the banks of the Grand River right next to where I grew up. And I thought, this place needs a canoe. And so again, I had another canoe. What you're looking at here is, hi, come on in. Hi. What you're looking at here is a poster that I recall from back in 2013. If you look down at the logo there, it's called the Truro Wampum Renewal Campaign. I won't go too much into the Truro Wampum, but for those of you who do know a little bit about it, it is a treaty, it is a promise between people that they will respect, have friendship and trust between each other. In this particular case, it was our Haudenosaunee people who had that first treaty with the Dutch over 400 years ago. And our Haudenosaunee people lived in upper New York State and were settling around what is now known as Manhattan. And the Dutch came over. There was sort of a dominance of people saying, well, we want you to be our sons, we will be your fathers, and we can work together in unity and respect. And our Haudenosaunee people said, no, 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 we don't want to be your sons. We want to be equal. So the dialogue and the promise was for each other to keep that respect so that one would not take over the politics, the religious ceremonies, etc., of the other. No one would dominate. And if you know your math, these are parallel. They will never, never cross over each other or intersect or interfere in the ways of the other person. So as we all know, through history, those 400 years, the treaty became tarnished. People forgot about the treaty. People weren't honoring that treaty. And a group of people in northern New York State, allies and Haudenosaunee, thought this is a time that we need to renew and let people know, increase awareness about that Truro Wampum. So what you're seeing here is a trip that I was very, very privileged to go on. This was in the summer of 2013, and it started way up in Albany, New York, and we camped and paddled all the way along until we got down to Manhattan. So it was a 16-day journey. And if you can imagine and visualize in your head a row of canoes and kayaks belonging to the Haudenosaunee and indigenous peoples, and another row of canoes and kayaks belonging to the settler communities. So we camped and traveled every day on the Hudson River, and even on the first day, there was a connection and a camaraderie, I guess if you want to say, between these peoples who were traveling down, trying to understand and learn and respect and travel in friendship. And if you've ever been in an outdoor journey of any kind that maybe take you out of your comfort level, I don't know what your experience is, but they happen to me all the time, but you know at some point in time you may need some help from someone, or you may be that person to offer that help to someone else, whether it be hiking or you know, cycling or anything like that. You may need help, or you can offer help. And so this is what was beginning to generate during this 16-day canoe trip. In the background there you see canoes and kayaks on the Hudson River, beautiful sunny day, but it wasn't always like that. There were days where we had wind in the face, and no matter how hard you paddled, you may have advanced a little bit before you had to get your breathing back into place and advance a little bit more. It wasn't always an easy go. And that too built endurance, it built in character, it built in this cohesive unity of the two groups that were there. Friendships developed, and by the time we got down to Manhattan, we really felt a connection and a bond. Now this was a one-year project with the organization called Noon, what does NOON stand for? It's an acronym. It's a group of people of the Onondaga, neighbors of the Onondaga Nation. And so they work together with the Onondaga Nation and the different reserves that are close by in northern New York State to host this. And so it was only meant to be 1 year. They got a lot of funding to do this. And we felt an accomplishment because so many people along the way learned a little bit more about the Turo Wampum and the meaning behind that treaty, that very important treaty. 4 of us came home from that trip, and it changed our lives. It changed the lives of every individual that was on that trip. And when we came back, we thought, we need to do this here. We need to make an awareness of what this, what friendship can be and what it needs to be. And the friendship belt here, that's just a reminder as well that, hey, we need this. And so we came back in 2013 and we thought, okay, we can do this. We can do this on the Grand River. And so it took us until 2016 to think, how are we going to do this on the Grand? And I didn't know what we were getting into, really. But we had to think about, okay, what part of the Grand River is navigable? And we learned very quickly that we can't take 200 canoes and kayaks way up to Dundalk and expect people to paddle side by side, because we got up there eager to do all of this when we were scouting out the river, and the Grand River up there is this big. So we had to travel and travel till we got to Riverview, and we found a bridge where we could actually get in, and it was wide enough for our paddles to propel forward. So we scouted the river for a couple of years, looking for places to camp overnight, all kinds of logistics that we needed to do. But the other thing that we wanted was to have cultural teachings along the way. Solid, true, historical events, knowledgeable people who would speak to our community when we camped and paddled. And so we had to put that into place as well. Now, 2016, I told you, was our Turo on the Grand. And it wasn't an easy thing to build up to. We had no money. And so we crossed our fingers and thought, okay, we will charge people a fee for the day because we were feeding them. And we were paying for campgrounds and things like this, so there had to be cost. And people paid. We were based at Chiefswood Park, and we rented a bus to take us to Paris, and so on. So that was sort of available to us to get people back and forth, and then we were able to camp in other locations. We pulled it off, and at the end of Port Maitland, when we got down to Lake Erie, where the Grand River dumps into the lake, there were 85, I believe, in total, 88 people that year that attended, and 25 of them did the whole thing. And we were in the black, and I was able to pay my credit card off because everything that was going through on my credit card, the campgrounds, all of these things, renting the buses, etc. And I just thought, okay, we're gonna make it work. And it worked. We were in the black. But when we had our sharing circle that night, there were a mixture of people from our community and also people from outside of our community there. We had shared at that time 7 days together on the river. And again, we were seeing that connection and that bonding and that healthy community that we wanted to see. And many, many people were saying, this was something I've learned things that I wasn't able to learn anywhere about Haudenosaunee culture. Learned a little bit about the Grand River and its transitory ways as it travels along. Learned about themselves, and there was a lot of personal growth, sense of achievement, one of the things that really reached out to me from a person in our community was a man who said, I grew up and my parents protected me from white society, saying that they didn't think anything good would come from friendships of that way. So he was raised with that core belief. And he found out, he was in his 40s, I think, and he found out, hey, I can trust, but I also have to trust. I can have friendships, and he was learning that about himself, and that was really profound to me. Another girl that was a participant in our community, I had actually taught her in 5th grade, and she was on the journey too. Hi, come on in. She was on the journey as well, and she spoke and really let her vulnerable self out. And she said, I suffer from anxiety, I suffer from depression. And she said, coming on this journey has really supported me and my mental well-being. Being out in nature has really settled me down. So she found a nature connection, which was really important to her. That little girl and the man that I speak of are still part of our volunteer group. We're here now for 9 years. Remember I told you this was only supposed to be 1 year? We're now going into our 9th year. So what I like to see is the connection that we have as we paddle and go down the Grand River, because it's a really important thing, especially after COVID, that there is a healthy connection. And what better way to learn about our allies, our neighbors, but to do it in the river. This shot here, thank you, Tanis, was taken at Bing Island, and that's our final campground. And this is a group shot from one of those years, but you can see how after being together for so many days and eating together and sharing, you know, the tough moments and the fun moments, how you get that bond. And what we're doing in that group right there is we always make sure that we travel as a flotilla. Now, if you don't know what a flotilla is, it's a group of vessels that go together. And that's really, really important to us. So where we can, we travel in 2 rows. You can't do that the whole span of the river where we travel, because there's rocks and there's boulders, but there are places where we can. We try to paddle in 2 rows. And we never leave anyone behind. We have a person in here, I don't see it right now, but he's delegated to be the sweep at the end of the paddle. And he makes sure that nothing gets left behind. So he's always on the lookout to make sure that we're going, particularly where there's islands, etc., where we're all going down the same path. We're connected in case we need to reach out. And the 2 lead canoes, I take 1 canoe. I carry the wampums with me, so they always travel. Like I said, this will be the 9th year carrying these down. I carry those with me, or I delegate somebody from our community to be the wampum carrier. And beside me, on the opposite side, is the other co-founder, Jay Bailey, who comes along and he navigates for the ally side. So we travel this way. What we're doing here is, before we paddle through this little stream to get out onto the Grand River, we're just giving the paddles up sign. So until we see everybody's paddle up, we wait until when we call it. And if everybody has their paddle up, then we know that everyone's ready to go. So it's really a journey of learning and bonding and connecting. So that's how the Turo got started. And you know, like I said, now we're in our 9th year. We've had a lot of growing pains, as any new thing does, but we've also had a lot of growth. So recall now, a couple of years ago we had COVID, and we couldn't camp and paddle that year at all. But we felt it was necessary. Hello.
I made the first half of the last one.
Well, you're just in time.
For the second.
Thank you. So what we sorry, I lost my train of thought here.
COVID.
What was I talking about?
COVID.
Okay, yes, thank you. So COVID happened, but we also thought it was important for us to carry the wampums down in spite of the fact that we couldn't camp. You know, we couldn't even be in groups of more than 10 people. And so we worked a way around that, and we do have a Facebook page. We put out on Facebook page and said, in spite of COVID, Jay and I are still going to take a day, you know, certain structures of the day. We will start paddling with the wampum, both of us, and we would end for the day, and then we'd go home. Self-sustaining, we bring our own food, we bring our own water. If you feel like you want to join us, you're welcome to join. And we just threw it out there, said this is where we're starting, these are the dates that we're going to be doing, and we ended up with over 60 people engaged at some point or another to join us along the way. And at the end of that summer, we had over 50-something people who were all, you know, happy that they were able to join and carry the wampum along with them. So it's become near, you know, it's come dear to the hearts of many, many people, building relationships in a positive way. Some of the other things that we've done, we are very proud to say that last year we won a tourism award, Southern Ontario Tourism Award, for innovation, and nowhere in Ontario can you get a better experience for culture than you can in a program such as this. So we were very, very honored to get that award. Another thing that's going on, during COVID, we were given a donation of money from a family, and they said to us, well, we want this to go toward youth engagement. And I said, well, what would you like to see? We want more youth involved. So we thought, how can we do this? It wasn't a tremendous amount of money, but it was a seed, and that seed was planted and flourished. So what it has become, we talked to the family violence teams, Ganokashra, in our community, and we talked to the health services teams in our community, and they networked with us to row on the Grand, and we put together 2 week-long day camps for youth. And the powers that be, we hardly had to touch our donation money from that family. It still remains there. The majority of that donation is still remaining. But those 2 networks supported financially and with manpower support, and we were able to service over 40 youth over those 2 weeks. Actually, I should say 60, because I think we had a cap of 30 each time. We provided meals for the kids, so they had breakfast and lunch and lots of snacks. They went out onto the Grand River, many of them for the first time, and they got some canoeing instruction and kayaking opportunities. We did cultural programs for the kids. We did some social dances and singing, and I'm telling you, those kids were just thirsty for structure, because remember, they had been locked down and didn't have any social engagement for so long. Those kids were just beautiful to work with. That now will be in its 4th year. We didn't think it would be, but it's in its 4th year now. So Jay and myself are the founders of that youth camp, and we very gracefully backed away. We provide the canoeing and kayaking experience of our own time, but our community networking has taken it over, and we can just show up and say, hey, we're here to help out. So they program everything now. We don't have to worry about, you know, all of the things about safety and keeping the kids fed and that kind of thing. And, transportation and barriers to participate, we can just come and play with the kids. So it's really grown a lot, and I believe health services planning year 5 this year. So it's been a really, really fun experience for us and for the community. Lots of kids look forward to it, and there's no cost to it. Now, do we have some kids from STEAM Academy here? Okay, I'm going to speak to you directly, because we also want to encourage those relationships between our Indigenous and our non-Indigenous families. And so the camp that I'm talking about, this youth camp that I am talking about, we open it to kids from our community and kids from surrounding communities. So whether you're a reserve resident, whether you're an ally and you can get transported to this, I will let somebody, maybe the principal, I'll let the principal know when those come up again for registration. We've had to turn kids away, families away before. There's always a wait list. We've been asked if we would do this all summer long, and we just can't. But it is an opportunity, and we really want youth engagement. So pass the word on, and I have left some brochures there. Going to roll into, the other thing I wanted to speak of is we've had a lot of input from Dr. Bonnie Freeman. She is in Indigenous Studies and the School of Social Work in McMaster University. And she has been a volunteer right from the get-go and a participant right from the get-go, and worked really, really hard. And this year, for the first time, the tour on the Grand 10-day paddle is going to be a university accredited course. So we've really come a long way. I wish I was university age to go back to university and have a credit like this. It certainly beats sitting in a lecture hall and handing in stacks of research papers and things. I have seen the curriculum. I've seen the syllabus now that's been rolled out. It looks phenomenal. And there is participation on the water, of course, that's expected of these students coming in for a university credit. I believe there will be some preamble academic papers that they need to read, write, and respond to. Then there's the journey themselves, the journey itself, where they will have to reflect on, and also some of the cultural teachings that they will be learning. They will have to do papers along that way. So it's not just a freebie, go and sit in the river and float. You do have to work for it, but what a way to learn, and what a way to get a degree in university. Just coming along that way, you've already got a university credit. So I will roll on now to a commercial, but be thinking about any other questions that you may have, and we'll talk about that afterward.
The Grand River's been an exceptionally important river to our family, and my mother and her siblings all felt like they weren't home until they crossed the Grand.
I'm Ellie Joseph. I was born and raised on the Six Nations Reserve, Mohawk, worked in the field of education, started the Touro on the Grand back in 2013 after inspiration from the Touro renewal campaign on the Hudson River.
And I'm Jay Bailey, retired French teacher who was invited by my paddle sister to take part in that Touro Wampum renewal campaign paddle. 4 of us from that trip, 2 allies, 2 Indigenous people, decided we needed to bring those teachings and that experience to communities along the Grand River.
I think part of it is you motivate the machine by yourself. The gas and oil comes from inside you, and I love being out on water.
It's just such a beautiful way to move through the world. There's something really magical about having water hold you. I was really moved literally by the river, like physically moved by the river, but just also moved by the fact that, it has its own character.
Everybody's so like, you got it, let's go, come on. And it was just an amazing camaraderie among people that you're meeting for the first time, and you just bond so quickly. And some people got a little more wet than others, and then we took a break and we all jumped in it fully clothed right into the river. We have seen nothing but herons and eagles and birds of prey, and it feels as if the Creator is literally applauding the fact that we've joined together.
And after all the stories we've heard, to arrive here and see what it was like before contact, I think the majesty of the river is something on its own, but then coming in to see how the people lived on it is pretty beautiful as well.
People from those communities coming out to the teachings and learning more about the culture, finding out who their neighbors are, because there's not enough connection between the two.
I have a really strong belief that if we are going to emerge as a people, we're going to need Indigenous folks to lead the way. It's a transformative experience, and I know you hear this stuff all the time, but I work in areas that are building towards some kind of transformation. This is the real deal.
Conservation is a never-ending battle. I feel like I've built a relationship with this space that I never had before.
You will have a ball. You will have so much fun. You will be shocked at how helpful everybody is. You'll be shocked at how interested the people are that are here to interact and start new relationships.
And this is a great way to really slow down and take a deep dive into an urban river that has been a big part of history around here, and you can see it firsthand, and the changes from section to section and what it means to our country and our history. And I think if you don't get a life-changing experience from that, you get to paddle down a river in beautiful summer weather, and if that doesn't give you some healing in one way or another, I don't know what else can help you.
So we do have a website. Our market banner that's here is, you can scan down at the base of that. It takes you to our registration. Registration opens up around mid-March, and we only take about 85 people. We had 105 last year, and on the weekend, 105 people. And on that weekend, we try to keep it around so that we can go to the powwow. And so we had people leaving Brantford doing the oxbow. I'm not sure if anybody knows the oxbow on the Grand River. It's really a loop that goes out toward Cairnsville and comes back around this way. So we had 105 vessels or people on the water, and then they came to a private property on Six Nations for Saturday night, and we bused them to the powwow so that they could go. A lot of people had never been to the powwow, so people who haven't been there get an opportunity to go to the powwow. They can look at the crafts, buy crafts, etc. And for our own community, then we can also support that, because a lot of our community members are manning those craft booths. So it's kind of a reciprocity and letting people know one of our big festivals over the summer. 105 people was way too many. And even though we did this gracefully, there were a lot of behind-the-scenes concerns over having that many people on the water. Everyone was safe. We had enough food. We had enough porta potties, But all of those things, if you've never planned something like this before, there's going to be glitches of some kind. And so we don't want those glitches to become something major. We do have safety paddlers. We have, our goal is to try and have 10 safety paddlers on the river, and those folks are very competent in canoeing, kayaking. They have first aid, they carry water, they carry sunscreen, they carry bandage, blister tapes, etc. like that in case you're, needing something like that. We also have medics, wilderness first aid medics that are out there, and they've treated things like someone walking through nettles and not knowing that there's nettles out there. So we try to look after every need, About 105 people under the Cockshut Bridge on a Saturday morning when it's like 85 degrees already. We kind of figured, okay, we're really pushing our luck. So it's back to 85 on the river this year. It will fill up very quickly, so watch if you are interested on coming along. Watch for that. We are reserving 30 community member spots. 30 community member spots. And either Turo on the Grand can sponsor folks. We hope to get a grant this year again. We've been successful with the Six Nations Economic Development Trust Fund to sponsor some of our own community members, and they are the people who we help to support and train, and they are volunteer ground crew, and they're also our safety paddlers. Health Services also for our community will sponsor portions of the trip or the whole trip, so that's another avenue that you can come down if you are a member of the community. Health Services will be putting that promotion together. We're meeting with them very soon. I'm not sure how many people that they will be engaging this year, but we hope to have about 30 reserved for our community members. Question?
How old do you have to be to be a safety paddler? Like, is there an age?
No, there is not an age. I'm 70. I'm a safety paddler.
Okay. How about like for you? Like
We had a phenomenal paddler. Phenomenal. He was 14 last year.
Okay.
He's been on the journey before, and he's done the whole thing several times. And you know, he's older now. He's more muscular, very, very good in canoeing, and also people skills. So we kind of look for those kinds of things. It's not just, can you rescue somebody out of a canoe? It's not just that. It's you know, engagement with people and ability to take instruction and to give instruction in a tactful, diplomatic way. This kid was 14 years old. And
do you earn your high school volunteer hours if you
Yes.
volunteer as something like that? As a
yes,
paddler?
yes, we actually, for that student, he still has yet to provide me with that form to do, but no, thank you for reminding that, because I told him I would fill that in for him, and yes, we do that.
Okay, awesome.
Yes, we do that. So it's not just the age, we look at a whole lot of things. And, you know, when you look at the self-esteem, I'm going to talk about this young gentleman right now because I'm very proud of who he is. The very first day that he was a safety paddler on this last summer's journey, he was really, really quiet and shy and, you know, just sort of like, what am I doing here? You know, and the other safety paddlers were adult. And I thought, how do we try to engage him to be comfortable in this setting? He's got a big role to play. Is he worried? Is he shy? Is he, you know, whatever. And so I asked him to be the firekeeper that night. Can you man the fire and make sure that you're, you know, looking after things safely, et cetera, like, because that's a duty too. And so he took that on, and he was very, very quiet, and people were around the campfire. It was getting dark, and he wasn't saying boo to anybody. And all of a sudden somebody brought out their guitar, and they began singing, and everybody was singing, and he was still being very, very shy and quiet. And then I made the announcement, because I'm kind of the mother hen, and I will say soft voices after 9. And then I just leave it at that. You know, people are talking and whatever, and people could talk all night if they want. But yeah, I always say soft voices after 9. And the fellow that I was talking about here, I said, and can you douse the fire at 9:30? And I could hear everybody saying, oh, what if we're quiet? What if we're quiet? So he had to negotiate all of those things. And I could hear him, and he said, okay, we'll give you 15 minutes more, as long as everybody's quiet. So he was setting boundaries. people were listening to him, you know? Adults were listening to this young gentleman. And from that time on, that kid just soared. And by day 2 and day 3, he was delegating and he was directing, you know, whatever. And the kid just bloomed. And we want to see that in our kids. It's going to make me cry, but the personal growth that came out of that kid. So if you've got somebody in mind,
Julia and Anna.
if you've got somebody in mind,
Julia has her what is it called, Julia? Lifeguarding.
I have my first aid, my bronze medallion, and bronze cross.
come to me. Have you had canoeing instruction before?
I went on the Grand River with you back in the land camp.
Last summer.
Yeah.
Steve land camp.
I wasn't in the camp that you were doing, but I was with what's it called?
Jay, right?
Jane.
Jay.
Jay?
Yeah, Jay led.
You came to
You
our
and
land
Jay
camp
were at the
at
land
Grand-
camp last summer. Park.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay.
Girls were in land camp.
I was there too.
Okay, I don't remember faces, but I remember that I was there and you had with Miss McGregor.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, so it's coming back to me. I'll tell you this, if you are really, really interested in this, check the leisure guide for spring, summer with health services. And what they do is they will hold, I think it's Tuesday nights and Friday afternoons or something like that, but they will hold evenings where you can go for free to Chiefswood Park and canoe and kayak with that group.
With
And-
the Chico group?
With health services.
Oh, okay.
Now, I'm generally there
Okay.
as a volunteer, but that's where you can start to build stamina. That's where you can get more opportunity to canoe and kayak and do those kinds of things. But we are looking for youth engagement. And it's a goal to shoot for, you know, and you don't need to be canoeing or in that capacity the whole time. Sometimes for the younger ones, what we find is maybe the whole day is too long, so we put them in pairs. So I'm going to use the two of you as an example. If you were both safety paddlers, then that vessel would get paddled all the way down the Grand River with one young person paddling in the morning and then the other one taking over at lunch so that you get a break. We want our people to have success. And so, you know,
She's really strong. They're both, I don't know about Anna yet, but like they're both very good in the water and stuff. Julia's excellent in the water.
well, please leave your emails and we will talk. It's,
Even over COVID, she was trying to teach me how to swim. And so I'm not a swimmer, I'm not really a water person. I try, but I'd rather be by the water than on the water sometimes.
And we have a kayak of our own, actually.
Yeah, so we go out and kayak. That's to, and Julia's leading the way.
and so these are all pluses that I see. Opportunities, if that can happen, would be to get the girls experience way up in Cambridge,
Awesome.
way up in Paris, you know. And maybe we can coordinate things like that with you. So keep in touch. And we are having a Zoom meeting tonight. And I spoke to you about this, but I will throw this out to everyone. We are having our first Zoom meeting tonight. If you are interested, I'll just take a photograph of the emails that are here, and we will send you the link. But it's at 7 o'clock tonight. I'm not sure how long it'll last, maybe an hour or so, but if you can get on that Zoom tonight, join us, because what we are doing tonight is opening it up for any questions and answers that can be given and provided, and also for people who've been on the paddle before to just kind of pop in and say hi and give their own testimonial, and for you know, just an engagement of where we're going this summer. So I encourage that. If you can get on, I will send that to Jay, who looks after the Zoom emails, and we'll get you on that for tonight. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, we've got a couple of minutes left. Other questions?
One more. So, how long is the whole entire program?
So it starts, there's a couple of opportunities. We start in Cambridge on the 24th of July. The 23rd is an optional camp out in Cambridge if you're coming from a distance, or even if you feel that'll fit you better. So the 24th is where we launch in Cambridge, and then we camp and paddle, camp and paddle, camp and paddle. 5 days, 5-day option. So from Wednesday till Sunday is a first leg. We call them legs. You can do only the first 5 days, and then you would end up at Chiefswood, and then you would say goodbye. We would say goodbye to you. The other option is to start at Chiefswood and camp and paddle down to Port Maitland, and you'd end up on August the 2nd. So that's the second option, and of course the third option is to do all 10. So, good question.
And is there going to be like proper showers, or you can just like jump in the pool?
We have several spots where you can shower. They're limited. They are limited. There's one at Five Oaks, shower facilities there. Chiefswood Park, shower facilities there. We go to there's an RV park near Cayuga. There's showers and a pool. And then we go to Bing, and there's showers there. So it's sort of, yes, showers, no showers. Yes, you can splash in the river. We tell people to bring along scent-free Pampers wipes. They're cheap. They do the job. And we've never had anyone say, oh, I can't stand, you know, I mean, we're all in it together. We're all sunscreen, and we're all, you know, sweat and insect repellent and things like that. But we manage, and we actually cost out what it would be to have those portable showers come along. We can't do what we do for $85 a day. We just can't. You know, that's the fee, is $85 a day. And that gets your transportation of your gear. So we hire or we drive a great big U-Haul, and everybody's gear goes in that U-Haul, so you're not carrying it yourself. We put all of that in there. So there's, but to provide showers is impossible.
So when you're camping at night, are you usually camping at a location where there's a shower?
Some and some not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, some and some not. We
So
always
for 5
carry.
days, you probably at least 2 locations with a shower.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
so
yes.
What equipment and gear does an individual have to bring along? Because I see tents, sleeping bags.
Yeah.
Canoes, kayaks.
When you look at our website and you want to go through that, we do send a gear list. So the process is, okay, if you are interested, we send you a link to all of those things, where a fairly comprehensive description of the journey itself. You know, there's boulders, there's rapids, the oxbow is dead water, you know, there may be backwash from the lake coming up, so we describe all of that in there. And then there's also a fairly comprehensive gear list. So people would have that list. Now, we also rent canoes and kayaks out from Grand River Rafting. They partner with us. And so we have a link to that too on our website. If you need to rent a canoe or kayak, then it will be through them, and then they deliver it to Cambridge. They pick it up in Chiefswood if that's only how far you're going, or they will go all the way down to Port Maitland and pick up there. So we try to cover and keep things as logistically easy for the people that are paddling. good question. And every year, we always think, okay, what do we need now for this gear list, you know, because there's always new things coming up. Did you have a question?
Roughly how long would you be paddling, like, every day?
It varies, and we put that on our website as well. So it may be 3.5 hours as a short paddle for the day. Sometimes we paddle in the morning and we stop at lunch, and that's where we stay for the day. Other times it might be get up in the morning, paddle, have lunch, go again, and then stop for the night. So I'm thinking maybe 10 to 13 kilometers, and I think there's one that is 23 kilometers. We always give breaks. We're very cognizant of heat, you know, days when it's really, really hot, we make sure people are hydrated. We, you know, find places to tuck into the shade just to give everybody that recovery time and thing. And we only go as fast as the group tells us. So Jay and myself are the pace setters. We make sure we're all in contact with those safety paddlers we have connected by walkie-talkie. If the group gets too long, we wait until it's cohesive again. So it's very safe. If you get on board with us, you might be giving us all kinds of ideas to keep things safe. Okay, any other questions? There's no silly questions. No silly questions.
I just want to say I'm very intrigued that Bonnie has done her like a reach ahead credit kind of. We do reach ahead credits here with Mohawk College. I don't know whether the kids will be ready for the paperwork part of that, so.
Yeah, the curriculum is the syllabus is really, I want to do the syllabus just to go through it myself, you know, as an audit, sort of a, yeah, I want to do that too. Yeah, yeah. All ages, you know, all ages. We've had small children with their parents, competent paddlers have brought their children along. We're really big on safety, so we assure and make sure that everyone has life jacket on. I know it's not mandatory, but we make it mandatory that people wear them. Safety kits, bailing buckets, those kinds of things. We've become amazing sky watchers, and you know, we have satellite weather, so we've had a few occasions before where it's like, ooh, Thunder Buddy, get into your shelter, you know. We've had those kinds of things before. We've got Creator with us, and we've never had an incident where we've been outside of our comfort zone for safety of our paddlers. Okay, anything else? I hope I've ignited some thought for planning this summer. Like I said, I hope you can join a Zoom meeting tonight. Love to see you there, and keep in touch in any way that you feel you would like to. Like I said, there's opportunities for the youth camp this summer to row on the Grand Youth Camp. We even have an outreach to people who want to work with hogweed on the Grand River to get rid of the hogweed on the river. I haven't participated in that yet myself, but it's there on the radar for us to partner with.
No, Ellie, for your great presentation and sharing with us, and thanks for coming out everyone today. And if you do want the Zoom link, I'm gonna leave your email, name and email address for me, and I'll send that link out for you. Or you can get it. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you everybody for attending. Take some brochures for yourself or people that you think might be interested.